Hi students, welcome to our class on machine learning. Myself, Dr. M. Tirupati Rao, working as associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, VIIT. So, as part of our machine learning course, so far we had covered the first unit and second units. So, today we are going to start our third unit in our syllabus. So, that is the dimensionality reduction and feature selection. So, the title of this unit is dimensionality reduction and feature selections. So far we had covered the first two units, in which in first unit we had seen the basics of machine learning. So, what is machine learning, what are various applications of machine learning, and what are types of machine learning models like supervised learning, unsupervised learning and reinforcement learning. All those things we had discussed in unit 1. And coming to the second unit, we had discussed it thoroughly about the classification and regression techniques which were there under the supervised learning. So, there you had seen the linear regression, logistic regression models and different decision trees and CART algorithm, C4.5, ID3 algorithm, and of course, the one important algorithm, so K nearest neighborhood algorithms. So, that is up to the second unit. So, coming to the moving forward, today we are discussing about the third unit. So okay, let us see the syllabus of the third unit. So, the title of the series dimensionality reduction and support vector machines. So, at first part of this third unit is dimensionality reduction. So, what is dimensionality reduction or dimension reduction, feature selection, and what are various algorithms or techniques that can be covered to reduce the dimensionality of a data set. That is the first part of this third unit. And secondly, the second part of this third unit is the support vector machines. So, how the support vector machines are going to work, what sort of applications or problems can be solved by using these support vector machines, and other techniques that will cover under this support vector machine also discussed in this third unit. So, today we are going to discuss about the first topic in this third unit, that is the dimensionality reduction and feature selection. So, this is the topic which we are going to cover today in our third unit. See, the content of this lecture is the dimensionality reduction and feature selection, and some of the examples are real-time examples which come under these models are discussed. And of course, the objective is the student can have a good knowledge about this dimension reduction, what is dimension reduction, what is feature selection, and how this dimension reduction can be reduced for a large data set, and what are the advantages of reducing the dimension of a data set, and moreover, what are various techniques that will be covered under this dimension reduction models also discussed in this thing. And the outcome is the student can have a good knowledge about this dimension reduction and feature selection models, and of course, he can utilize this model to reduce the size or any real-time problems such that the large data sets dimensions can be reduced by using various techniques that will be covered under this dimensionality reduction. See, what is this dimension reduction? See, what is the background of this dimension reduction first of all. So, what is dimension reduction, why it came into existence, and why we need to use this, we will see this. See, there is a general description. See, have you ever worked on a data set with more than 1,000 features? Suppose, what is this dimension reduction, why it is coming means, suppose for every feature in the data set, if you start working on each and every data set, and every feature in the data set, it will take much time. Suppose if it is 10 data volumes in a data set, it is okay. If it is 100, somehow it is okay. If it is 1,000 or more than 1,000, it will be a very hard work and very time taking process to solve each and every sample in the data set. So, see, this is the thing we wrote here. So, how about over 50,000 features? So, yes, it is a very challenging task, especially if you do not know where to start. Having a high number of variables is both a boon and a curse. Here the boon is why, because if you have large amount of data, your interpretations or your results, whatever you are going to analyze and you are going to get, will give you the much results and good results. But whereas it is another side, it is the curse to the users. Why? Because when your large data set is there with more than 1,000 samples, so if you want to work on each and every sample to process, it will take much time. So that is the major disadvantage of this. See, it is great that we have loads of data for analysis, but it is a challenging due to its size. It does not mean that you have vast amount of data, but when you are handling with such huge amount of data, so very number of challenges also exist. That is the main problem here. So it's not feasible to analyze each and every variable at a microscopic level. So when you have 1000 samples or 1000 variables in a data set, each and every variable we have to process when you are working on that large data set. So that will be a time taking process and very huge process even for the algorithms or the techniques which we are using to process such data. So that is the main disadvantage of this. It might take us days or months to perform any meaningful analysis, and we will lose a ton of time and money for our business. So when you have a huge amount of data or large data set to process with thousands of samples, the main advantage is when more number of samples are there, it is very easy for you to get the interpretations very easily. But at the same time, the processing of each and every sample in the large data set is a very time taking process. As this is a time taking process, so we need to spend more time and more business hours on that. So that's a problem. Not to mention the amount of computational power this will take. Why? Because as usual, when the data is more, the time taking for processing such data is also more, automatically the computational time is also more. We need a better way to deal with high dimensional data so that we can quickly extract patterns and insights from it. So how do we approach such a data set? So the main thing is we need to have a large data set we are having. So now we need to reduce such large data set into a simple data sets that can be easily processed and easily understood for better understanding by the machine also and by the algorithm also. So that is our target, to design a data set which can be easily processed. So that is our target. So what will be the solution for this? Let's see this. Using dimensionality reduction techniques, of course, you can use this concept to reduce the number of features in your data set without having to lose much information and keep the model's performance. So the simple thing is, in order to reduce that large data size into small data size, is the simple solution is by reducing the dimension reduction of the data set. That is the solution for this problem. So the main logic or the main theme we are using in this dimension reduction is, we are going to reduce the size of the data set by reducing some of the variables or values in the data set and not compromising the model's performance. That is our main thing. So we will reduce the size of the data set. That doesn't mean that we are compromising with the performance of the model. So we will not compromise with the model's performance. Still, we will try to reduce the size of the large data set into small size by using this dimension reduction. It's a really powerful way to deal with huge data sets, as you will see in this presentation, and we will first understand what this concept is and why we should use it before dividing into 12 different techniques. So we have nearly 12 different techniques under this dimension reduction. So before going to the 12 data sets, why we need to use it and how you can use this dimension reduction, we will see this now. See, what is this dimensionality reduction? See, we are generating a tremendous amount of data daily. In fact, 90% of the data in the world, has been generated in the last 3-4 years. The numbers are truly mind blowing. See, some of the examples I had given you are, Facebook collects data of what you like, share, post, places you visit, restaurants you like, etc. So with that, every individual user's data is being recorded. So with that, you think, what about the amount data being stored? Your smartphone apps collect a lot of personal information about you. Amazon collects data of what you buy, view, click, etc. on their website. And of course, casinos keep a track of every move each customer makes. So by these examples, you can understand how much amount of data is being stored as a data set. And when you need to process such large amount of data by using a technique, it will take a huge amount of time to process. Computational time is also more. Similarly, the another important thing is, if you want to process such large data set, taking each individual sample in the data set and processing every individual sample in that particular data set is a critical procedure which will take you a lot of time. So for that, we are going to use this dimension reduction. That is the main advantage of using these dimension reductions. So simply, dimensional reduction can be used in the two types. One is the feature selection and second one is, of course, dimension reduction. So that thing you will see in the next slides. See, this is the another best example. You can understand better way in this. As data generation and collection keeps increasing, visualizing it and drawing inferences becomes more and more challenging. So, but that is, as data is increasing from day to day, whenever you need to develop some interferences or interpretations from the data, that means some understandings from the data. So, about a customer or about a user or about a person in the database you want to analyze is going to be becoming challenging by day to day, because the volume of amount you need to process for that particular user is going to be increasing day to day, day to day. So, that is the main problem here. And second one is, one of the most common ways of doing visualization is through charts. So, the other way is simply representing such large data in form of charts is one of the main easy solution. Suppose we have two variables, age and height, we can use a scatter or line plot between age and height and can visualize their relationship. Suppose here you have only two variables, height and weight or height and age. So, you can represent these two variables with a xy graph. So, on x axis you can represent the age, on y axis you can represent the height. So, you have two variables, you can simply represent the two variables with a simple scatter plot or a line graph. You can see this is an example. So, we are representing x axis age and y axis as the height. So, all these are the various points with different data points available in a data set, and you are representing them in the form of a line. So, this is the best way of analyzing the data, but simply think, if it is more than 3 variables you have 4 variables or you have 5 variables. So, it will be a difficult problem for us to represent such data in the form of a graphical representation. So, the main thing is, so such data can be reduced to a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional space, and we are going to represent such data in the form of these graphs. That is the main utilization of this dimension. See, you have here the simple thing is, you have age and height, two factors, you need to represent them in the form of a visualization. So, the best way is representing in the form of a graph. But similarly, if you have 4 variables or 5 variables or 10 variables, it will be difficult for you to represent in the form of a graphical representation. So, the simple thing is, by converting or reducing the dimension of the data size into 2 or more 3 variables, and you are representing them in the form of a graph. So, the curse of dimensionality. So, why the dimensionality is a curse? Because when more number of dimensions of a data is there, so it will be obviously a curse. So, why you can see this here? The curse of dimension refers to all the problems that arise when working with data in the higher dimensions that did not exist in the lower dimensions. So, higher dimensions, lower dimensions means, simple thing is, higher dimensions means a data set is having more than 5 or more than 10 or more than 100 variables in a same data set. Similarly, lower dimensions means having 2 or 3 or 4 variables, which can be very easy to represent the data. That is the difference between these higher and lower dimensions of data. See, as the number of features increases, the number of samples also increases proportionally. So, if you take a large data set, you have 1000 variables, as more number of samples or variables are getting increased, the samples for analyzing such data or variables in the data set is also increasing proportionally. The more features we have, the more number of samples we will need to have all combination of feature values to represent in the sample. Simply see the example here. You see this graph, on x axis we are taking the dimensionality, on y axis we are representing the classifier performance. If you see this performance, this is the optimal number of features. When you have the optimal number of features, the graph is being increasing to this level. So, this is the optimum level of features. So, till that optimum level of the features, the graph you can see in a good increase. That means your performance is going good in terms of this classifier performance. But after that, when the dimensional is increasing more and more, that means more number of variables or more number of samples in the data set is being increasing, you see there is a gradual or a sharp decrease in the dimensions and means performance. When the dimensionality is being increased, the performance or the classifier performance is being reduced sharply. That means to some level our performance model, whatever the performance model we are designing or we had designed, is going to be working very perfectly to the optimum level of features. After that, you can simply observe there is a gradual decrease or a sharp decrease in the classifier performance. So that means with this graph you can clearly understand that the more number of dimensions or more number of samples you have in the data set, obviously it is going to affect the performance of the classifier which you are choosing in your model, such that to take the accuracy or the performance of model. So the best thing is keeping the optimal number of features or identifying the optimal number of features in the model and trying to keep them in our model is the best way to get the optimum performance from the classifier whatever we are designing. So that is the best thing we can understand from this thing. See, as the number of features increases, the model becomes more complex, as we discussed. The more the number of features, the more chance of overfitting the data will exist. A machine learning model that is trained on a large number of features gets increasingly dependent on the data it was trained on. That means more number of samples we are working with, so the machine is going to dependent on the more amount of the data, and in turn overfitted, resulting in poor performance of real data, beating the purpose. Our purpose is we need to train the data in such a way whenever a new data will come or a new data or new question of data will arise, the machine need to train on this existing data and it should perform. But here with this more amount of data when we have on this training, so the overfitting problem may occur. With that, the actual performance of the model is going to be reduced. That should not be occurred in the model. So that is the another case why we need to go for these dimensions. Avoiding overfitting is a major motivation for performing the dimensional reduction. So that is one of the another advantage or another important reason why we need to go for this dimension reduction. So avoiding the overfitting is the another best reason. So the fewer features, that means less number of features in our training data has, the lesser assumptions our model makes and the simpler it will be. So when the less number of features are there, the predictions or the assumptions made by the model will be few, and with that you can get the more accurate results. That is the conclusion for this dimensionality curse. See, why is dimensionality reduction required? So as we have seen so many problems, see this is also some of the reasons why we need to go for this. Space required to store the data is reduced as the number of dimension comes down. So when you are reducing the number of dimensions, suppose you have 1000 number of dimensions, now I am making it to 100 dimensions. So 900 dimensions I am reducing. So why, how you are reducing, that is the next thing we will discuss. But somehow we are reducing the number of dimensions in the data set. With that, the space that can be used to store such data is going to be reduced. That is one of the advantage. So less dimensions lead to less computation and training time. So that is giving the less computation time. That means your performance of the model can be faster, you can observe. Some algorithms do not perform well when we have a large dimension. So some algorithms, not all algorithms. So in such case, so if we reduce the dimensions of data in such algorithms, you can observe some performance, high performance or better performance of those algorithms in a real-time problems. It takes care of multicollinearity by removing redundant features. So whatever the features which are redundant, that is repeating, can be reduced by using these dimensions. It helps in visualizing data. So we can visualize the data by using these dimension reduction models. So these are the common reduction model techniques. I told you basically dimension reduction can be done in two things. One is the feature selection, second one is the dimensionality reduction. So these two are the basic techniques that can be used to reduce the dimension of any data set. See, what is this feature selection? The first one is the feature selection. What is this? So the name itself is their feature. So feature means which will give you the details or the characteristics of any object. See, suppose by only keeping the most relevant variables from the original data set. So by using this feature selection, we are going to keep only the most relevant variables. That means what are the important relevant variables are there, only we are keeping those important variables or relevant variables for your topic, that from the original database. That is the process we will follow in this feature selection. And of course the second one is the dimension reduction. So by finding a smaller set of new variables, first we are going to identify the smaller set of new variables, each being a combination of the input variables. So that those small variables are a combination of input variables containing basically the same information as the input variables. So, here we are going to identify the small variables which are having the input values very less and which are having the previous data examples also in the similar model. Such models can be taken here as the dimension reduction. So, we will now look at the various dimension reduction techniques, how to implement each of them we will discuss here. So, how to use this, or by observing this you can understand this dimensionality reduction in a clear picture. See, dimension reduction basically if you see, mainly it can be classified into two types. So, feature selection is one method and dimensional reduction is the second model. So, if you take any large data set, if you want to reduce the dimension of the data set, you can implement that in the two models. One is the feature selection model, second one is the dimensional reduction. Under feature selection, you have these models. So, whatever we have seen the 12 models till now, all these 12 models will cover under this with some of the additional models also. In feature selection, you have missing value ratio, low variance, high correlation, random forest, backward and forward elimination and feature extraction models. All these models will come under this feature selection model. And in dimension reduction, it is again classified into two types, components are factor based and projection based. So, in component based, factor analysis, PCA, independent component analysis will come, whereas in projection based, isomap, TSNE and UMAP models will be there. So, basically if you observe in a clear way, you can dimensionally reduction can be done with three techniques. One is the feature selection, second one is component and factor based, and of course third one is the projection based. So, all these 12 models what we have seen so far will come under these three types of models. One is the feature selection or component or product based, and third one is the projection based model. See, these are the various techniques we have. The first one is the missing value ratio. See, suppose you are given a data set, what would be your first step? You would naturally want to explore the data first before building the model. So, first of all, I have given you a data set. So, before processing it, first you will process the data set and you will try to identify any variables are missing or everything is perfect, you will check. That is your first step. While exploring the data, you find that your data has some missing values. So, when you are observing the entire data set, you can observe some of the variables or values which are missing. So, now what you will try to find out the reason for these missing values and then impute them or drop the variables entirely which have missing values. The next step automatically whatever we are going to do is, by identifying all the missing values from the data set, first you will identify the reason for missing those things. The second level, we are going to remove all those missing values parameters from your actual data set. So, what if you have too many missing values? Should we impute the missing values or drop the variables? I would prefer to drop the variables since it will not have much information. So, now the question is whether you want to remove the missing values or by keeping them with continue. The only choice for us we can for better performance is dropping them or removing them from the actual data set what you have. We can set a threshold value. So, then you will get a question how to remove those values. We can have a threshold value, and if the percentage of missing values is in any variable is more than the threshold value, we are going to remove them. Simple method we are going to follow. By taking the threshold value, if the threshold value of a variable is more than the threshold value, you are removing them. If it is less than the threshold value, we will keep them in the data. Second one is low variance filter. Consider a variable in our data set where all the observations have the same value, say 1. Suppose you have a data set, you have the observations. Among all the observations, you have a common value as 1. So, see, if you use this variable, do you think it can improve the model we will build? The answer is no, of course. When it has the same value from the entire table or entire data set, it does not going to make any difference because entire value is only one value. In that case, we need to calculate the variance of each variable we are giving, then drop the variables having low variance as compared to other variables. Simply we are calculating the variance of those variables and we are keeping again the threshold value. If the threshold value is below to that variance of that variable is below to that threshold, we are going to drop them. The reason for doing this is the variables with a lower variance will not affect the target variables. So, that is the simple reason. And next one is high correlation filter. High correlation between two variables means they have similar trends and are likely to carry similar information. Suppose you have two variables, each are almost similar to each other and carrying almost the data or the samples of the data is also same. Then the simple thing is this can bring down the performance of models drastically. So, we can calculate the correlation between the variables and then if the correlation coefficient crosses a certain threshold value, we can drop one of the variables. So, you have two variables which are similarly going on both of those. So, now you want to remove one variable. How we will going to reach? Again the same. We will calculate a threshold value, we will fix the threshold value of that variable, and whenever the threshold value is more for that, you will remove that. If it is less than that threshold value, you will continue that variable. So, we will go like this in this high correlation filter. Next one, of course, random forest. So, this is another example we will use. So, random forest is one of the most widely used algorithms for feature selection. So, this is one of the best algorithm we will use for the feature selection. So, it comes packaged with inbuilt features important. So, you do not need to program that separately. So, the feature selection mechanism is inbuilt for a random forest algorithm. So, you no need to implement it in a special way. The next important one is the backward feature elimination and forward feature selection. So, simple thing is it will follow the three steps. The simple thing, we first take all the n variables present in our data and train the model using them. So, first of all we are taking a data set which is having a variables of n and we will train them. We then calculate the performance of the model. So, we are calculating the performance of the model, then go for the next step. Now, we compute the performance of the model after eliminating each variable n times, that is we drop one variable every time and train the model on the remaining n minus 1 variable. Suppose this model is elimination model, how we are going to do is, we are having n number of variables. With that n number of variables, we are going to analyze or calculate the performance of the model. So, now we are going to use this backward feature elimination. How? So, every time we are reducing one element from the entire number of elements. So, what about the number of elements now? We are removing one element means we are having n minus 1 number of elements in the data set. So, now we are going to calculate the accuracy or the performance of the model with the n minus 1 number of elements. We identify the variable whose removal has produced the smallest or change in the performance of the model, and then the drop will be variable. That variable will be drop. That means we will calculate we are identifying the variable by removing that variable which does not have much importance or impact on the data set, then we are going to eliminate that element. So, repeat this process until no variable can be dropped. So, that means we will repeat this or we will continue the same step continuously until this variable can be dropped. That means by eliminating a simple element in the entire data set that does not make any impact on the performance of the model. So, we will remove all those elements by removing those elements which does not have any impact on the performance of the model. Similarly, forward feature, it is the reverse of this backward elimination. We start with a single feature. Essentially, we train the model n number of times using features separately. The variable giving the best performance is selected as the starting variable. So, here the variable which is having the best performance is taken as the first element. Then we repeat this process and add one variable at a time. Then the variable that produces the highest increase in performance is returned. So, every variable we are trying to increase or we are going to add, when the element is being added, the thing will be more produced, then we will continue that element. If the adding of that element to the entire data set is not going to make any impact on the performance of the model, we will simply remove that variable. So, the main difference between these is, in backward elimination we are removing one element by calculating the performance of the model. Similarly, in forward feature selection we are adding an element when we are having the impact on the performance of the model. Both are each simply inversely proportional to each other. So, factor analysis. Suppose we have two variables, income and education. So, these variables will potentially have a high correlation, because as people with higher education level tend to have significantly higher income and vice versa. So, this thing we know. As a person, if you take both higher education and income, so both are related with each other. In the factor analysis technique, variables are grouped by their correlation. That is, all variables in a particular group will have a high correlation among themselves, but a low correlation with variables of other groups. Here each group is known as a factor. That means here we are going to make two groups. One group of elements is having a high value of correlation value is high for those variables, and the second group where all the elements have less correlation between them. So, automatically when observing the two correlation groups, the group which is having the high correlation will be kept in the data set, and the group which is having the less correlation values will be removed from the data set. So, in that way we are going to reduce the dimensions there. Similarly, principal component analysis PCS, you know, PCS is a technique which helps us in extracting a new set of variables from an existing variables. So, how this works you can see here. A principal component is a linear combination of original values. Second thing is, principal components are extracted in such a way that first principal component explains maximum variance in the data set, and second variable will give you the, see here, explain the remaining variance in the data set, and third principal component tries to explain the variance. So, here the PCI will works in the 3 steps. First variable or first value which you are considering will give you the variance of the certain values. Second principal component will give you the variance of the remaining variables, and third variable is going between these 2 values. A1 is the vector parallel to B. So, we can get the projection of vector A and vector B using the below equation. So, by using this equation you will get the projection or the value between the A1 which is having the value between these 2 vectors, vector A and vector B. Here see in this formula A1 is the projection of A onto B, and of course B cap is the unit vector in the direction of B, and of course by projecting one vector onto the other, dimensionality can be automatically reduced. That means you have vector A and vector B. When you are taking the output, you are taking only one variable, that is the A1. So, when you have 2 variables, you are trying to reduce the dimension to single variable, that is your A1. See, the next one is distributed stochastic neighbor embedding TSNE model. So far we have learned that PCA is a good choice for dimension reduction and visualization for data sets, but what if we could see something more advanced? So, what if we can easily search for patterns in a non-linear way? So, the 2 methods or 2 types of models can be used under this distributed stochastic neighbor model. The first one is the local approaches, second one is the global approaches. What is this local approach? These maps are they maps nearby points on the manifold to nearby points in the low dimensional representation. That means they will select some set of points, and they will identify the sum of the nearby points, and they will try to represent the both points in a low dimensional representation. Low dimensional representation means, I told already, where the less number of variables are there in the data set, that will give you the low dimensional representation. Similarly, global approaches, they attempt to preserve the geometry at all scales, that is mapping nearby points on manifold to nearby points on low dimensional representation, as well as far away points to far away points. So, in local approaches we are considering the points which are near to points. Similarly, we are going to represent them in the lower dimension spaces. But whereas in the global approach, not only the nearby points, far away points, and we are calculating the other side of the far away points also we are collecting, and we are trying to represent them in the lower dimensional representation. That means in local approach we are considering only the nearby points, whereas in global approach we are considering both type of elements, that is nearby points we are representing them in the lower dimension space. Similarly, far away points and far away points. That means if you take an x-axis and y-axis like this, so near points like this also will be represented. Similarly, far away points like this also be represented. So these 2 nearby points will be represented in a single space. Similarly, these 2 far away points also will be represented in a single dimension space. That is the major thing. We will represent this in the distributed stochastic neighbor embedding model. So next one is the last one, UMAP. UMAP is another one, uniform manifold approximation and projection model. See, basically this UMAP is a dimension reduction technique that can preserve as much of local and more of the global data structure as compared to TSNE with a shorter runtime. Similarly, this UMAP model is also storing both shorter points in a one thing, and global far away points into a lesser dimension space. And the difference between these 2 UMAP and TSNE model is it is running with a shorter runtime. That means runtime will be less in UMAP model compared to SNE model. That is the major difference between these 2 models. Some of the advantages are it can handle larger data sets and high dimensional data without too much difficulty. It combines the power of visualization with the ability to reduce the dimensions. So these are some of the advantages when to use these techniques. That is the main thing. See, when we will use the missing value ratio, if the data set has too many missing values, we use this approach to reduce the number of variables. We can drop the variables having a large number of missing values. So, if you have a large data set with more number of missing values, that is your problem, then you will use this missing value ratio model to solve such problems. Low variance filter, we apply this approach to identify and drop constant variables from the data set. The target variable is not unduly affected by the variables with low variance, and hence these variables can be safely dropped. So, the values which are having the lowest variance will be identified and those values will be removed from the data set. In that way, we are reducing this dimension, that is the low variance filter. High correlation filter, a pair of variables having high correlation increases multicollinearity in the data set. So, we can use the technique to find highly correlated features and drop them accordingly. So, if you have two similar types of variables which are having the similarity between them, you need to reduce the size of those two variables, then use this correlation filter model. Random forest, this is one of the most commonly used technique. We can find the importance of each feature and keep the topmost features resulting in the dimensional reduction. That means, you will use the importance of the each and variable in the data set. The variables whichever is having the high priority or high importance will be kept in the data set, and the variables which are having the less importance in the data set will be removed. So, how you are going to remove the variables which are having less importance? By keeping a threshold value. Which are variables which are having the higher than the threshold value, we will keep them in the data set, and the variables which are having the lesser amount of value below this threshold value, we will remove them. In that way, we are going to reduce the dimension of the data set. Similarly, both backward feature and forward selection techniques take a lot of computational time and are thus generally used on the smaller data sets. So, backward elimination and forward feature selection, both models can be used on the only smaller type of data sets. You cannot use it for the large data sets. Why? Because here we are going to deal with each and every variable in the data set. So, that is obviously a time taking process. So, if you use those models on a large data set, it will take huge amount of time. So, the best thing is using on the smaller data sets is the best thing. Factor analysis, this technique, this technique divides the variables based on their correlation into different groups and represents each group with a factor. PCA, so it divides the data into a set of components which tries to explain variance as much as possible. So, when you want to work with the variance, we will use the PCA model. So, independent components, we can use ICA to transform the data into independent components which describe the data using less number of components. If you want to work with the data or if you want to convert the data into independent components, we will use this ICA. Isomap, we use this technique when the data is strongly non-linear data, then we will use this isomap. So, TSNE, this technique also works well when the data is strongly non-linear. It works extremely well for visualization as well. So, when the data is non-linear model, we will use this UMAP, TSNE and isomap models. So, with this I am concluding this dimension reduction. So, basically this dimension reduction is mainly used for the reducing the size of a data set. Why? Because if you have a small amount of data in a data set with 100 variables or 50 variables, it is very easy for us to process such data set. But if you have 1,000 variables or 5,000 variables, it is very difficult for us to process. Similarly, the machine also process such data. It will take more amount of time to process such data, and similarly it is a burden on the algorithms also. We cannot predict the nature or the performance of the model in a easier fashion or a earlier fashion. So, the best method to use that is the dimension reduction. That means, we are trying to reduce the size of a database without compromising the performance of the model. That is the basic logic we will use in this dimension reduction, and basically this can be used in dimension reduction can be done with three types of models. One is the feature selection model, second one is the component based or factor based model, and third one is the projection based model. By using these three types of models, we can reduce the dimension of a data set. So, if the data set is in the form of a linear model or if the data set is the non-linear fashion model, we will try to reduce. Both the type of data sets can be processed by using this dimension reduction models. So, these are the textbooks that were given in your syllabus. So, when you have free time, you go through these reference textbooks also, where you can understand the Python, how to use the Python for the machine learning problems also. given in these textbooks. You have to follow this for better understanding of the real time problems, and these are some of the references where I had prepared this presentation, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.